Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ninja Bunny Crafting, where we craft awesome miniature terrain and talk about gaming. Today's episode, as you can see, is clearly about ruined towers and what we can do with them as far as wargaming goes, D&D, and other tabletop games. So let's not waste too much time on this one. Remember, folks, if you enjoy this, give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. We've also got a Patreon up and running. That's Ninja Bunny Crafting at patreon.com. So let's get into this build. I start off by getting a spare piece of XPS foam that I have and a hot wire cutter because I'm going to shape it. I wanted a raised hill, but not too high up in the air, just enough that it would be kind of a little bump in flat land. Because this piece for me is going to be a ruined tower sitting somewhere in a grassland or savanna. This build doesn't require much as I've got a Pringle can here, and you can see I'm going to just cut the little rims off here and try to scrape up a little bit of this stuff so when I get the bottom off, I can just peel that inner off. You don't want that inner in there either because it won't let anything stick to it, and it can actually be a like harbor and haven for bacterial growth. Not a smart thing to have. So as you can see here, I just take a regular razor knife and I cut it off. I want one side to be a little bit flat, and then the other side I'm just gonna cut out a little bit. That flat side is just cut out a doorway for myself here because it's gonna be a ruined tower, but somebody had to get into it at some point. And then I'll just figure out where I want to place it, glue it down. Now, part of the fun about a ruined tower is you can have it be from anything: an old watchtower, part of a castle, maybe a fortress even. Here we got my hot glue gun out, and I've got some pre-made bricks that I always tend to have laying around, and I'm just going to use the hot glue gun here to get this set started. Once it's set, as you can see, I'm going to go around with a razor knife, and I'm going to just kind of slice up the tops a little bit, slice up some of the sides, put some damage and wear and tear on them like they've been here for a while and that they've wore away. So as I was saying, the thing about ruined towers is that you can use them for all kinds of stuff. You could have them be the MacGuffin location, that somehow they have to find a way into a dungeon that's underneath this old tower. Or maybe you're doing like I do here, and this is a little bit of a base, or a place that the players will be able to come back to and operate out of. So, as you can see here, I'm scraping away with my razor knife. You can use your putty knife, sharp knife, anything you really want to scrape away those parts. And then we're going to take some sand and glue, and I'm going to go around in some of the bigger mortar parts here in the inside, and I'm just going to start using PVA glue in that to put it in. Once it's all set, which you can see here on the inside and outside, I'll just put on some black Mod Podge real quick because we want to seal this up. Now, the reason we added the glue and the sand onto the inside and the outside, one, the inside, it gives it this kind of like stucco kind of like look, like they had done the interior walls with something to hide them from being just plain, brick. And then on the outside, adding it in, when we do the dry brush like you see here, it'll help add in some grit to it that makes it look like this tower's really falling apart and there's just enough mortar to help keep it standing up. And some of that mortar, as you can see, is just worn away over time. Don't be afraid either when you get in there with the dry brush. I'm using fog gray like I normally do because I didn't want this to have too much contrast. I wanted the tower to be very monotone compared to the grass that was going to be put on here and to the shed or shack or whatever you want to call it. I call it a shack that I was going to build next to it coming up. So when you get in with the dry brushing, just really work it in. Work it in nice and good and don't let up. It's one of the best parts about this because you're turning this from just black brick into, well, old ruined bricks that are going to have depth and texture to them. Now I want to build a accessible rooftop floor for this ruined tower. So I'm going to take some of these stir sticks here I've got that have a more squarish look to them, and I'm just going to cut them to size, a few of them, so that they can act like rafters or joists that are up there. And then I'm just going to kind of snip them down and give them a little bit of a rub on some sandpaper to help take off any sharp edges left over. And that's going to give us this kind of look of a ruined tower of joists. And then once we've got them in to size and sand it down, we're going to take I'm just going to take some super glue and just hold them for a few seconds to get them into place, which will look really nice on this. Once I've got them into place, I'm going to take one. You don't have to do this, but I wanted that look of ruin. I'm going to take one of them after I've got 3 set in place, and I'm going to snap it in half and then glue it on there in position so it looks like it's crumbled and fell into the old tower itself. Once everything is set and dry, and this took me a moment, I actually had to use some tweezers here and hold it in. Just take some popsicle sticks and just kind of chop them up, give them a little bit of slicing with your razor blade, and if you're using, like I do, a little bit of tin snips there, just give them a chop up, break them off, leave them looking a little rough, because this is wooden planks that have been here for who knows how long, that have collapsed into the inside of this tower. And in my mind, somebody is living out here, so the inside of the tower below, they've cleared out a lot of the rubble. They've probably got it there for somewhere to hide, or maybe they just needed the rubble for wood to burn, or something to help build the shack that we're going to work on that goes alongside this. Here I'm just applying a little bit of a green wash and some dry brushing because I want this to look weathered, exposed for a long time to the ages and the elements. Nothing more. You could probably use a gray, but I went with a green and then went over that green with a gray and then dry brushed it to really bring out all that kind of aged, weathered look here that went with what I wanted for this aged tower that's been sitting out in the middle of nowhere for who knows how long. Because again, for me, this tower isn't a MacGuffin or something. This is a base. This is somewhere that somebody saw, and they saw it was a location that's been abandoned for a long time and decided that they're going to use it either as a place to stay secure or a place to hide. Now inside here, I'm getting ready to apply some dried dirt. I'm just squeezing in a bunch of glue, and then I'm going to just sprinkle that in there. Now this is called dry grassland from All Terrain, I think is the name of the company. I can't remember, please forgive me. But yeah, I used that there on the inside because it looked more like trampled, dried grass and dirt than anything else. Now I'm just going to pick out a few spots here and just kind of spread this glue along. And then I'm going to sprinkle again on that dried grassland all-terrain effect here. And if you want to do this at home, like I always say, take a bottle of PVA glue. I like to use Elmer's all-purpose glue and water it down. You want it to be about 2-to-1 ratio there, so it'll stick and dry well. And then as you can see, I'm just going to liberally sprinkle this everywhere. I'm just going to be very generous about it. While that dries, we're going to get to work on making the shack. And this is a little bit weird for me because I kept losing my super glue. Normally I do these toothpick and like popsicle sticks and bamboo skewers and all this. I usually use super glue because it dries a little bit quicker, but I kept losing it during this build. I'd have it for one shot and lose it for the next. So you're going to see me use different mediums like tacky glue and hot glue as we're going along. But all you're going to do right now is you're going to start work on a platform, or at least that's what I'm working on here, is the platform, the base for this shack. And I'm just going to build it up with toothpicks, well in this case popsicle sticks that I'm cutting to roughly about the size I need, and then just going to lay them down as the floor for this shack. Again, just taking these coffee stirrers here, because they've got that kind of squarish look to it. Just going to take some super glue to each corner there and just kind of stick them up so that they're standing straight up, as you would want them to when you're trying to build 4 walls. Now, I don't know why I wanted to use toothpicks here. I could have used foam and did this a little bit different, but I really wanted to just use up some of the toothpicks and bamboo skewers I had for building a shack. And that's just kind of where this came from. I love the idea of there being a hermit or a place the players can go that's hidden away from everyone, that no one knows. It's out in the wilds. That would seem dangerous or safe. Maybe a hermit lives out here and the players have to come out here to meet them for something, and that's how they end up finding this place. So as you can see, I'm getting everything set, and I'm going to start putting back walls or side walls, whatever, I guess, perspective you're looking at things here. And I'm just going to lay down the popsicle sticks and then cut them off once I have them dried down by the glue. One of the fun things too about builds like this is, given the Bastion rules, the 2024 Player's Handbook and DM's Guide, you could actually build something like this for your players as a starting Bastion, and then slowly, as they level up, replace it with different parts and pieces. Maybe they go from a little shack here to having an actual house that's filled. Maybe they upgrade that old ruined tower into a functioning actual tower that they can use to defend themselves against whatever weird thing the DM's going to throw at them. Maybe they don't do anything at all. Maybe they build underground, and this is just the top layer where they put on a valiant front if they have some noble cause or something. You never know. Players are wild. Let them help fuel this story for you. So, as you can see here, I'm getting this. I want the shack to be modular. I want the inside of the shack to be usable, so I am actually building up a side wall and the roof right now, trying my best to make sure that everything aligns very well. If you're trying to do something like this, check, double check, triple check, quadruple check, because glue will dry sometimes at a wrong angle and you've got to break the piece to reset it. So again, don't feel bad if that happens to you. You're like, oh no, it didn't set. Go ahead, break it, reset it. You're absolutely fine doing that. It's a perfectly valid way of getting these things working. And if you don't want to make it a playable interior, you don't have to. You could seal all this up and save yourself a lot of headache and just do theater of the mind with it. As you can see now, I'm getting ready to do a little something extra here. I was going to make a full back wall, but then I thought, no, I want this shack, again, to feel like somebody built it out here in the middle of nowhere and ran out of materials. They grabbed some of the broken boards that they found laying in the ruins of the tower and just decided they would clack up one side of it. As you can see, I'm putting a brace in here, just like this, and you will probably want to do this too. If not, again, you don't have to, but you might want to use a popsicle stick instead of a bamboo skewer like I did. Once that's said and done, I'm going to do two different washes on this shack. One is a lighter one for the inside where obviously weather and elements haven't exposed it, and the other one is going to be a darker one that's going to make the weathered look on the boards a little bit nicer on the outside, as if somebody's living here, but you can tell that weather and time is definitely going to affect these exposed raw wood. This will take you a moment to do, so you're going to want to probably start out with like a sepia brown, and then for the outside use a sepia, then an umbra, and if you have them, I have a yellow and a red wood stain that I quickly went over to help add in like a cedar or orangish look to it. Now, if you're doing this for, and I really hope you are actually doing this for a game, try to think up a reason for the players to be here. Sometimes it's easy to do, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're like, I know I need them to go to a ruined tower to meet up with an old hermit at a shack. But you have no idea what's going to happen there. Think of something, anything. So I found this. This is a potbelly stove, a 28mm scale one that I found for free online and just printed out. And I'm painting it over real quick with chalkboard paint. It's one of my favorite things to use to create an almost realistic look for like cast iron and other things, because it has a little bit of a grit to it that you can only see once it's dried. And once it is dried, you're going to want to do like I'm doing here to help that out and just give it a small, light dry brushing. I'm using white here, titanium white, to dry brush it so that it sticks out a little bit more, and ironically, it doesn't shine like you would expect. So right now, I was just gluing on the potbelly stove to a corner of the shack. And now we're going to start building up like a little stovepipe that comes out of it. I'm going to take like two little bamboo skewers, just kind of cut them at an angle and then sandpaper them down so I can super glue them together. And then I'm going to take one of those coffee stirring sticks I have, and I'm going to cut it off at that square part, leaving just a little angle that's cut there, and glue that onto it. Because again, I want this to look like the jack and a stove pipe coming out of the thing. Somebody's living here. They've taken the time to bring out a stove, a potbelly stove, even if it's just to keep them warm on cold nights, or maybe just to warm up a cup of coffee. So once I primer this gray, I take, and I don't use a black because I want this to pop a little bit more than normal. I take Tinny Tin by Army Painter, and I just paint this whole thing over with Tinny Tin. I give it good heavy brushing on there so that any wood grain that is possibly hiding is just removed. Once I've got it all said and done, I take what I've got left in my super glue bottle that's running low here, and I just stick it on it roughly about the same angle and height. That way it looks right. Now, while that's drying, I've decided it's time to stick on the flocking. And I'm just going to do again the watered down PVA thing, and I'm going to brush everywhere that I see black from the Mod Podge on this. And I'm going to pick out a few spots over the dried grass area to stick in it. Giggity. Now, what I'm using here is a yellow grass with a combination, very small combination of light green grass and a few pinches of dark green grass. It doesn't show up as well on the camera here, so trust me on that one, and the final thing it will. Here I'm building tarps, a door tarp for the shack in that open exposed area where the wood bricks were or wooden planks. I said bricks. You know, this is one of the problems when you record, you can screw up, and I'm not taking this out because, again, I feel like this is natural and real, and everyone prefers that. Maybe not. So we're going to just take some toilet paper tissue here on some cardboard we cut, or even just index cards if you have those, and then we're going to mix them with glue and suede paint and just stick them to both sides and let them dry. Once they're dried, we're going to dry brush them and stick them onto the shack. Again, folks, if you stuck around this long, please give me a like, a share, and a subscribe. Check out our Patreon over at patreon.com. We've also got an Instagram up there, you know. Got to put in this mid-video plug. So, as you can see, I'm taking over anywhere that I think that I can add a little bit more to give it a little bit more oomph to look more like a tarp. I'm just going to do it. You can do a single pass. You can do several passes, whatever you like. But at some point, you do have to walk away and let it dry. Once our tarps are dry, we're just going to stick them on. One on the outside for the one that's blocking the hole, and then one on the inside for the door. I'm going to use some sticky tack here because tacky glue is going to just dry really quickly for me on this, and I need it to dry quickly because I am in the process of wanting to finish this up. It's that ADHD moment where you're like, I'm almost done. I need to get this done. When I had the tarps on there glued, I didn't like things the way they were. So I glued together a little frame here at an angle, about 3-inch ones, several 2-inch ones. And I took another piece of tissue and I just kind of glued it on top there and took a bunch of glue and suede paint mix and just poured it all over the top of this as a tarp. I came to the conclusion that I wanted a second floor, something on top of the roof, maybe a way to access that ruined floor of that tower. And this is what my mind came up with. Now, one of the issues again with ADHD and crafting is that when you have a sudden idea, you might forget to record some parts. So I didn't record me snipping and making this guy. I did remember that I wanted to record this, so I started recording at this point. Once it was dry, I noticed that it was flimsy, and I decided that I was going to go back through this and add some bracing onto it, just cutting up some popsicle sticks to look like, you know, like 2x12s or 2x6s, something that somebody put on here to build a makeshift kind of canopy or tarp over top of the shack that would block them from the grassland sun, anything else that was there, and would also give them a little bit of access to that ruined tower. Once I had everything glued up and I felt like the supports here were good, I then realized something else. I could use this as the covering for a stall in a bazaar or something. It had hit me that the shack and this all led to their own little buildings because I didn't want to glue the shack down onto that piece. I really liked the way the tower looked with just the grassland itself. So, with that thought, I was like, I'm going to put a ladder on the side of the thing. Because like I said, I wanted a canopy up there, and they need some way to access that ruined tower floor. But also, if I were to put this shack down into an urban environment or a wasteland environment, it gives access to that roof. What are you doing up on the roof? Who knows? Anything. Players are wild. They can come up with all kinds of reasons to be up there. Plus, I think that giving your terrain multiple levels for use helps you as a dungeon master or a game master, whatever title you want to go by, really set up Theater of the Mind better. As you can see, I'm just kind of getting the last little bits of super glue out of the tube here before I stick that ladder right on the side of the building. Once it's there, we'll just wait for it to dry. Once we start just putting a stain on our little canopies wood, we'll come over and add a little bit of stain to it, and then hit everything once more with a nice dry brush. As I said before, we're going to hit this guy with a dark umber like we did the other ones, then a light sepia, and then followed it up with a red and yellow wood stain to kind of give it a cedar look to it. As I've said earlier in the video and before, folks, if you're liking things you're seeing, please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. We could really use your support. We enjoy making these videos for you guys. That being said, as you can see here, we're going to add over that light sepia brown. It's going to help start adding things in. And then the yellow here, we're going to go over top of it. We don't want the yellow to dry. I'm not trying to let the yellow dry. I'm going to try and get in there with the red one so that the colors can blend and make kind of an orangish cider or cedar look to it. Because, you know, you might be in the grasslands, but there's still bugs out there, and you don't want them eating your stuff up. Blinken and Squat had followed the information to an old hermit's shack next to a ruined tower in the middle of the grasslands. Everything had pointed out that the old hermit knew how to enter the old dungeons and get into the Scorpion King's lair. However, this was not a well-kept secret, as they heard the scuttling and approach of a scorpion person lair. There would be very little they could do, and they had hoped the old man wasn't here at that time. How long they would be, as he was inside of his own shack, preparing to join them in battle. And with that, folks, we're going to give it a wraps up on this video. I'm glad that you joined me for this fun one. I hope you enjoyed it because I really enjoyed making this. As always, give us a like, share, and subscribe. I know you hate hearing it. I know it sounds like a broken record, but again, we've got a Patreon, Ninja Bunny Crafting, over at patreon.com. We're on Instagram. We're Ninja Bunny Crafting on Instagram, and we're also Ninja Bunny Crafting over on Facebook. If you can't find us under those, look under Ninja Bunny Crafts. Can't miss us. We look forward to see you guys in the future. Remember, get out there, guys, and craft something awesome.